Hello, everybody. This is Dustin Starr with Memphis Wrestling, and you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Welcome once again to Live and in Color with Wolfie D and my man Jimmy across the street. And Jimmy, this weekend, you know what I found out?
What's that?
Everybody is a boxing expert. Social media full of boxing experts. I have a lot of friends that are boxing experts that I didn't know actually even watch boxing.
Yeah.
But that was the talk of the night. And, really to me, the only thing that really disappointed me, because this is kind of like the Ric Flair match to me. Okay.
Totally.
Like if you were expecting to tune in and see Mike Tyson's greatest championship fight, you had already fucked yourself right there. I kind of thought he would do better too, but man, age will get you. But look, what I was saying was the thing that really disappointed me the most was Netflix.
Oh man, brutal.
Not being prepared. Like I started, mine was going great there at the beginning for that first trash fight. And then, then the girls fight was awesome. And the one before the girls fight was pretty damn good too, but the girls fight stole the show.
I agree.
And that girl got robbed. There's no way that other girl wins that, man.
I know.
Numbers she didn't win it. But yeah, man, Mike just looked top heavy, off balance. His legs, Roy Jones kept saying about his legs looking weak, and you could tell he was gassed up. His upper body looked great, but he just looked off balance and top heavy, and he just wasn't moving. Your punching power comes from your legs and your hips and shit, man. And that's how Mike used to fight. He'd lunge in and whoom, those driving fucking punches, man. He couldn't get those off. So I don't know that. I believe it was 100% of work. It's hard to call, man, because, they were landing some shots, but fuck, a stiff work is a stiff work. Maybe he did just want to, go 8 rounds with him. And Jake Paul, I thought he had come across as respectful at the end of the fight, but there was a couple of times where I thought, man, he's fixing to lay into him, but he didn't. And then, before the bell rang, he kind of bowed at him or whatever. And, they said those nice things. A part at the end that I did not like, however, and I've been a kind of a fan of his brother, when Mike was obviously just joking. He's like, maybe your brother. And he's like, motherfucker, I'll whoop your ass, or whatever he said. I just thought that was kind of shitty. He could have done it different than that and laughed it off or something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts. I'm not a boxing expert, but
and he's also a heel.
Tyson in boxing in the 90s. So
Right. And yeah, I get what you're saying. You're right. It's like, let the old samurai die with some credit, but
right.
But I just honestly, I thought it was going to go a lot different when he's talking to his son, and all of a sudden you realize he only has like the front part of his, I guess he has a jock strap on,
right.
and like his boxing pads on that go under his trunk or pants or what, shorts.
Yeah.
And he's got his ass showing. And I'm thinking, man, that is like prime time in the game. I don't care who sees it. Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I said, Mike Tyson might kill that guy right now. He don't care. He's showing his ass on TV and everything. But
yeah, it was wild.
When I saw Mike line up at the top of the ramp, I was like, man, I said, this is like Ric Flair. This is going to be like Ric Flair's last match. But I've listened to a lot of his podcasts, and I do think he's a very temperamental, emotional man. And I do almost feel like sometimes, like, first of all, I think a lot of those combos he was doing with his trainer guy, I think that must be part of his routine. Yeah. And so they can hype that up and make him look like he's really like killer. And then if you notice in those videos, he doesn't seem to be favoring his knee. So I'm almost wondering, is this knee thing really new?
Yeah, I really think that something's wrong you know, like that, you know, something like that. If his knee was bothering him, but he just didn't look, you know, I beat it 100 times. He just didn't look balanced and strong in his legs and shit, man. But,
and I remember him chewing on his glove from back in the day.
I do too. I was like, please, Roy. He's always done that.
Yeah, shut up, Roy. The legs part, you're right, bro. But the chewing on the glove, but there wasn't really much to talk about because Mike was just spinning, man. You know, and Jake was laying into him here and there, pop, 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 pop. But Mike was mostly just spinning around, like not really doing much. And honestly, he just, I don't know if he, you know, like obviously your mind isn't as quick as it used to be. Everybody's ages, their mind ages. But like I was almost thinking maybe like he was just so out of time. You know what I mean? Like he just could not get his routine going. And
dude, it happens, man. I'm telling you, the last few times, you know, I only did those battle royals, but just the last few times I've been in the ring, I could just tell, you know, like just doing certain things that used to be effortless, weren't necessarily hard, but they weren't effortless.
You were like, wait a minute, I had to think about that for a second.
Or just, you know, it's like, you know, you take off running or you jump and you don't jump near as high as you thought you could or something like that.
Could you used to dunk back in the day?
Yeah, if I could never do a basketball, but I could do a volleyball.
Okay.
For reason.
Got it. Okay.
No good hand strength, I guess.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Use 2 hands.
Yeah. I got you. Man, but I was just curious because, you know, Tyson, man, it's unfortunate because I think everybody wanted like 1988 Mike Tyson, you know. And that wouldn't have been a contest, in my opinion. I think he would have, you know, finished him off quick. But unfortunately,
that early left jab that knocked him back pretty good, knocked Jake back pretty good.
Yeah,
and it was just from there, it wasn't much.
And man, what a weird combination of announce team too. That Mauro Ranallo guy, he used to work for NXT, and he got removed because he's a bit of a head case. I think he's really talented at his job, but he's super over the top. And then you have Rosie Perez, who I'm not sure what purpose she served at all.
Oh, if you listen to her, she did know her boxing. I'm not saying that it was a great pick, but she does know boxing, you know.
She definitely does. I'm just saying they didn't let her talk ever. It was like Mauro was going. And again, man, you really can't tell Roy Jones to shut up. It's like, hey, Roy was the smartest one up there, you know, and in my opinion, you know, but anyway, and then Netflix, man.
They crashed Netflix. I'm anxious to see what the numbers are. On how many people tried to get in or whatever, how many viewers, and the attendance was crazy for a boxing match. I mean, they did what they said to do, is make some money, and people can be mad about that if they want. But I mean, it's because we didn't know. We didn't know what was going to happen. That's why everybody tuned the fuck. If you knew what was going to happen, you might not have watched it.
Yeah. Well, you know, someone else who's very similar to Jake Paul, actually, he makes money and he pisses a lot of people off. That's our guest today.
Great segue.
I mean, you volleyed it up to me, to be honest, man. Even if you didn't know you were.
Yeah, man. Dustin Starr is on here today. The owner of Memphis Wrestling now. He's got some heat with folks, but you know, hey man, the dude's always been all right with me, and I don't know the whole story, so I want to hear it. So that's why I'm gonna have him, let him tell it, and let the listeners take a judge for themselves. You don't have to watch his show or anything, but maybe you will listen to it, you know, and get a new perspective on it.
Yeah, I think it's all about perspective, man. And heck, man, I say we get him on. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back with Dustin Starr on Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Hey folks, to get your official Live and in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, we're back. You survived the commercial break once again. And today, I've got a special guest, as I always do. This particular young man has done some things in Memphis. It's ruffled a few feathers. It's but it's good, and that's okay. I think the wrestling business has always got to ruffle some feathers to get people to pay attention to it. So today we have a friend of mine. I mean, I've known this guy for a while. Dustin Starr. What's going on, my man?
Nobody's ruffled more feathers in Memphis wrestling than PG-13, so I don't even want to hear that. What's up, guys?
What's up?
You could be right about that.
It's legendary. Let's just say that.
the stories of legend. Oh, yes. My goodness, man. Yeah.
Well,
so
thank you guys for having me on, man. I can't wait to talk Memphis wrestling. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
Really always has been, you know?
Yeah. And so before Memphis wrestling came about, you know, there was always Memphis wrestling, but you've brought it into the new age here, and like I said, we'll get more into that later. Let's talk about the beginnings for you. Let's talk about what Memphis wrestling means to you. You grew up in the area, right?
Oh man, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
So
my family went to Monday night.
Who were your people, man? Who were your people? Like when you was a kid and watching it, who were your people?
Lawler and Dundee had to be the top two, right?
Top two.
When you guys came around, when PG-13 came around, it kind of made us wrestling fans relate a little bit more, because even my buddies really liked some PG-13, the way you guys dressed and talked, and it was just different than the buttoned-up wrestling stuff that you got from Lawler and Dundee.
Right.
But my family went to Mid-South Coliseum. I remember meeting Bill Dundee in the concourse. I think it was him and Lawler that night, and I had a Jerry Lawler T-shirt on that went all the way past my knees. It was like my parents' T-shirt or something. And Dundee walks up and says, "Kid, where the hell did you get that T-shirt from?" And I was like, "Oh no, Bill Dundee. I met him and I have the wrong T-shirt on." So I was like freaking out. But yeah, we went to Mid-South Coliseum, and then later on went to Channel 5, and that was it. You know, like when I wanted to be a wrestler growing up, I didn't really think of WWF or WCW that much. I mean, I watched it, but like if I was talking promos in the mirror or something, I was talking to Lance and Dave.
Right.
That was the thing.
Yeah, right.
I remember my dad getting mad that Jerry Lawler had his foot in his mouth in WWF because he was such a badass here.
Right.
Man, why are they doing that to him, you know?
Yeah.
And as a fan, you didn't really understand it all, like the business part of it and money and all that kind of stuff. But when you saw the Memphis guys doing stuff elsewhere, you wanted them to be just as strong as they were in Memphis. You know, we were proud of that.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't like that either. And hell, I mean, I was even in the business at the time, you know, and I still didn't like it because a lot of people, I mean, current wrestling fans, they don't know what Jerry Lawler and Bill, but more Lawler for me, what he meant around, you know, the territory, man. I mean, the strap, just the kick-ass, badass dude that Lawler was, as opposed to the, you know, the funny ha-ha commentator, you know. And then even when he had matches, though, it's like the strap was never a thing, and you know, just I don't know, I didn't care for it.
Well, being in the seat that I'm in now, I have even more respect for somebody like Lawler than ever before because of all the behind the scenes, backstage stuff. And then also, you know, people talk about Lawler booking himself on top and all that or whatever. He was the number one draw, number one. And number two is something that I didn't understand previously that I do now, is that he's probably the only guy that he could have depended on 100% to be there every single show.
Yeah.
Right? He's the boss. It's his thing. Yeah. But yeah, and also when we saw you guys coming out PG-13 at WrestleMania and on Raw and stuff, I thought that was cool because it was very similar to the characters that you guys played here.
Right.
It's just there. It's the land of giants, you know. So for you guys to get beat up, I thought it was like, man, PG-13's doing it. You know what I mean? It was just two different things for me, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but the whole Lawler and Dundee thing. So, all right, so you decide you want to be a wrestler. what do you do now?
So I picked up the phone. I called Channel 5, WMC, and I told them I want to be a wrestler. And they ruffled some papers and said, hold on one second. Came back and gave me a phone number. And I couldn't believe it. They gave me this phone number. So I'm like, okay, thanks. And I didn't even know who it was, didn't even know who to ask for. So I called the phone number and talked to him, and he gave me Outlaw Don Bass's number. So there was a training center right across the bridge in West Memphis, or near West Memphis and Jericho, whatever. And so before we got off the phone, I said, hey, wait a second, who is this? And he's like, it's Randy Hales. And I go, oh, man, I watch you every Saturday on TV, you know, kind of marked out for a second. He's like, yep, all right, good luck. And
so
that
what
was the
year
first
was this?
time I'd ever.
What year was this?
That had to be like 2000, 99 probably, 99, 2000.
And that was the last cordial conversation you ever... No, I'm just kidding.
No. Randy's actually one of our biggest fans. Don't let him fool you. Me and Randy go way back. Like, that was the first conversation that I ever had in the business was with Randy. And then I met with... My mom drove me to a truck stop in West Memphis, Arkansas, and met Don Bass at a little a truck stop breakfast place, and we ate breakfast. And I had to pay my deposit, and I had to pay my training and stuff, and I had to be responsible to get there and back. And that's how I started wrestling at 15 years old, training to wrestle.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And you've been to Don Bass's training, right?
No, I really don't. I mean, of course, I've wrestled Don Bass, but I don't know much about his training.
Bro, it's a barn. No heat, no air, no ring. It's a slab of concrete with carpet, like a million pads of carpet over the top of it. The ropes were not real ropes. He would hang on to the ropes so that way when you hit them, his body weight would keep the tension on the rope. But it was not. Okay, so looking back, it was like, oh my gosh, how did I do that? But at the time, that was the coolest thing ever. I was training to be a pro wrestler, and I didn't care where it was. And now we see the Wrestlecenter, 6,000 square feet, heat and air, it's clean, all that stuff. Like, it's like these kids are spoiled now, but that's where I trained, in a barn in Jericho.
Yeah, my first training session was also in a barn, and it was carpet. It was a ring, but I mean, it was no canvas. It was just carpet. The one side of the barn didn't have a wall, I guess you'd say. There was a side to it, so it was exposed to the elements. So the carpet was all soured, and you know. But I get it, man. It's a different time these days.
It definitely is.
So, who was your first match with?
My first match was with Jet Logan. He was the guy I trained with. He's from New Albany, Mississippi, and now he is appearing in plays and like small films and stuff.
Nice. Okay.
And he was much bigger. He was probably 230 pounds. You know, I'm a 140-pound kid, so he beat me up all over the barn most of the time. And I also trained with Psycho Simon, who's on our wrestling show now. He has the face paint.
Psycho Simon.
So back then, we trained together, and we're still working together now. Me and Jamie, or Jet Logan, we're still friends to this day as well.
Yeah. And okay, so I jump around a lot because I don't, like you said, I don't script any of this. So tell me about the Memphis Grizzlies and how that all came around for you, and tell the listeners that don't know like what you do there.
So I host and emcee all the home games at FedEx Forum for the Memphis Grizzlies. And then what that means is I'm hosting the games and the fun activities and throwing out free T-shirts when the actual basketball game is on pause. So it's just a ton of fun. I can't even believe they pay me to do it. It's unreal.
How'd you get the gig?
Well, so I was pursuing signing with WWE and just doing other TV things. I always had blinders on and wanted wrestle. And then I just felt like there was an opportunity to do some other stuff, and I became friends with the Grizz, the mascot, and we've been friends for a really long time. And so, I don't know, it all just kind of fell into place looking at outside stuff. There was one time where they called me in, the game ops called me in the day before a game, and I was looking at the wrestling night banners and graphics, and they were playing the music. And so then I nudged my buddy, and I was like, hey, why do they have me here? What do you guys need? He's like, well, we just want to make sure that you think it's good. Like, you're the wrestling guy. And so I was like, oh, cool. So I just felt kind of cool that they respected my opinion that much. And it was probably just, like a friend thing or whatever. And so I was very close to signing with the developmental and was getting opportunities like auditions with the Grizzlies. And so when I left developmental, they called me and asked me to come do an audition. And so I did. And then the next day they had a preseason game. So they called me and asked me if I wanted to MC that. And so I did. And then they called me the next day and said, hey, would you like to do the season? And so now this is my 10th season since then. So it all just kind of happened.
Yeah. And you know what, as you say it, I don't guess I either forgot or didn't know that you had a developmental deal with WWE.
It was about a year. Now, Wolfie, I remember one time you saying that that you could become a mark for a day and watch the Titans play football, and you forgot what it was like to cheer. I forget what conversation, but you and I had a conversation that you like to cheer for the Titans, and it's like, man, I forget what it's like being in the crowd and doing it because I've been performing so long. Right. It was similar to me with the Grizzlies, where me and Maria would go to the playoff games and just have fun and cheer and, gosh, do all that stuff, and then and it kind of worked my way into like actually working there. Mm-hmm. So like, I feel like I've become a mark at some point as far as sports goes, because I'm cheering for these teams and I'm wanting them to win. Right. Anyway, it's kind of random. Yeah.
You know, I sat in a crowd. I swear to God. Let's see. I guess 2 years ago, WWE came up the road here from us in Kentucky to Corbin. They come there like once a year, I think. And I got road dogged to get some tickets so I could take the kids and, let them have fun. And we had like, I think first row seats, man. And nice. I actually sat there, and watched the entire wrestling show. Now, did I get up and holler? No, but it was just the first time since I was 15 years old that I had sat in a wrestling crowd and watched the show as a fucking mark. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was really,
I love it, man.
It was different. It was really different.
I'd take my kid. I've got a 4-year-old and then my 16-year-old before he got, too cool or whatever. We would go. I mean, they would cheer, and I just loved it. I love watching them do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it. And I, they usually put us in a sweet box or something. I like being down in the people. I want to hear what they say. I want to hear what they're yelling, because they're always talking shit. And sometimes it's funny, I like being down there with the people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that brings to mind just the energy that's in the room, that, a lot of times we're in the back and we're watching on the monitor or whatever. And at Ric Flair's last match, I was, fortunate to be on that show in the Battle Royal. Yeah. And I actually got to produce a match, which I really didn't do shit because they didn't want to listen to me. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But when Flair's match happened, myself and Rey Mysterio, I didn't want to watch it on the monitor. I wanted to go out there because that's the arena that I grew up going to as far as non-Memphis wrestling. The Municipal Auditorium was where, the WCW and WWF came. So anyway, I wanted to be out there in it. And I'm telling you, man, people can say what they want about that show and, how bad he looked and all this kind of shit. But, dude, I'm telling you, the energy in that fucking building was, off the fucking charts. And I've been in a lot of fucking arenas. You know what I'm saying? That shit was incredible, man. It was really cool. And I enjoyed every second of it, man. And if you were going to watch that and thought you were going to see Ric Flair's best match as opposed to his last match, you were fucked up in your thinking. But it was great in my opinion. Just being out there with it, man, when being able to hear everybody and feel it was a whole different thing.
We ordered the pay-per-view, and me and a bunch of the boys here in my living room watched it. We loved it. And when we saw, when we see guys that we know, we all pop. Wolfie, right. Look at Wolfie in there,
Yeah. It was a cool deal, man. But yeah, the energy in the room is different than when you're in the business and you're, watching it from the back and all that. And it's fun to kind of experience that every once in a while again to see, okay, this is why I signed up for this,
Well, growing up, my generation of wrestling, it was frowned upon, to go and watch. If you weren't booked, why are you going?
Yeah.
And so I didn't like that because I felt like the reason that I'm in wrestling is because I'm a mark for wrestling. I love it. I love championship belts. I love watching matches. I even like bad wrestling. I DVR this stuff. I've got a podcast, Grind City Wrestling, that I have to watch all the stuff so we can talk about it. Yeah. So I love it, man. If I did not love it, there's no way that I'd be able to do the Memphis Wrestling TV program. It's literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like something is always going on.
You've had some really good names down there. I mean, you had Jerry Jarrett, did you not?
Yeah.
That's pretty. So I guess we'll kind of lean into talking about that. We know there's some hate, man. There's some real hate down there. Memphis, and I'm gonna give you my Memphis thing here. I feel like it's always been very. And it's different, okay, than any other place I've ever worked. But it was the first place I ever really worked as far as territory, big company type deal. But like you come back from the ring and more times than not, whether you tore the fucking house down or not, somebody's going to go, oh, that was a fucking abortion. You know, there's never no fucking
drizzling shits.
Yeah, there's never no, hey man, that was great. You know, there's hardly ever did you hear that from anybody. It's always been a real kind of just backstabby sort of deal, man. And that's just how I thought that's how it was. And, you know, Jamie and I go to ECW, for instance, and we come back and people are like, fucking great. I told Jamie and the listeners have heard this one 100 times, but WCW, we had a great match of us and Frog against the Jung Dragons, I think is how you pronounce that. But tore the fucking house down, real cool fucking finish. And we come back and there's DDP and Arn Anderson and fucking everybody at Gorilla and a lot of the boys standing up, clapping for us as we came back through the curtain. And I'm like, it's almost like I felt like it was a rib. It's like, this can't, why are they clapping for us? You know, but Memphis has always been, it's like haters, man, haters. And so,
you said it. You just said it. That's it. That's it. Wolfie, that's what we're...
True. It's true. I think whether you put on the best show in the world or whether you put on the worst show in the world in Memphis, I think the heat is that the name Memphis Wrestling, because, you know, it changed names so many times over the years, CWA, USWA, whatever else,
Power Pro.
Everybody always say Power Pro. It's always been known as Memphis Wrestling, even though Nashville, Louisville, you forget about those, but Memphis Wrestling, and you're calling it Memphis Wrestling. So then I think it hits a nerve with a lot of the old timers. And I mean, I'm kind of one of them that, yeah, man, I respect the old school of Memphis, but I also understand that it's not there anymore. And, you know, if there wants to be Memphis Wrestling, nobody else is doing it. Why shouldn't you?
Right. Okay. So there's a lot there. So
unpack that.
And they're listening.
All right. Let me if I miss anything, let me know.
Yeah.
So the haters, I feel like that we are changing that. I feel like we're changing that environment big time. You know, it's different. You don't train in barns anymore. You can't do that. There's certain things that you cannot do anymore. There's labor laws and all sorts of different stuff there's certain things you cannot do anymore. You can't talk to people the way that they used to talk to people. Yeah. You can't treat people the way that they used to treat people. And it makes no sense to always be negative. So we cheer each other on. We're fans of one another. Why would I put anybody on a show that I don't see something in, that I'm a fan? If you're on the show, I'm a fan of what you're doing. And when you do it the way that we produce it or the way that we need it to be done, man, great job. I feel like we've got that all the time. And I feel like that we've done a pretty decent job that if there's a negative attitude in the locker room, then we just don't have them back.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you're exactly right. There are haters that no matter what you do, they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
At first, when we had Championship Wrestling, it was a syndicated program for 100 episodes. We had a syndicated program. My wife and I, we hosted it, and it was Hollywood Wrestling. We never called it Memphis Wrestling. It was Championship Wrestling presented by a sponsor. And oh my gosh, the Memphis Wrestling fans, oh, it's not Memphis. They can't call it Memphis. We never did. But it was a proof of concept to where when we flipped to do, and the whole idea the entire time was to do Memphis Wrestling locally. And then we did. And then it was who they're using or how it's being done or that ain't Memphis Wrestling or whatever. And it's like, okay. And so here we are now 100 as of this day today. Well, I'll just say we're approaching 200 episodes that we produce locally. Mm-hmm. So if that's not Memphis Wrestling, I don't know what is. It is like 1,000,000% local talent. The music that we use is local. The artists and graphics, everything that we do on the program, even the beer we sell at the Wrestlecenter is Ghost River locally brewed beer. So it is 1,000,000% Memphis Wrestling. Okay, the term Memphis Wrestling, you had USWA, you had CWA, you had Power Pro Wrestling, you had all these renditions of Memphis Wrestling. To me, Memphis Wrestling is almost like a slang for wrestling that occurs in Memphis. Yeah. And so what we did is we took that and made it a brand, and we branded it Memphis Wrestling. I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah. There's nothing trademarked. There's nothing copyrighted. And let me tell you this, Wolfie D, and anybody else listening, if Jerry Lawler and the Lawlers were still running, we would all work for them. Yeah. They decided not to do it anymore. And we loved it so much, Wolfie, that we made our own. Yeah. And that's it. We love it so much that we made our own. I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah. The term Memphis Wrestling, if anybody were to have a problem with it, it would be Corey Macklin. And Corey Macklin unfortunately passed away many years ago. And then also that term has been abandoned for over 20 years as well. And I mean, if anybody should be upset, it should be the old school guys that didn't call it Memphis Wrestling. Right? Yeah. So we took basically a slang and we made it our brand. And so we are Memphis Wrestling. Yeah. And at this point, if you Google Memphis Wrestling, guess what comes up the first 10 times over? Memphis Wrestling. Yeah. It's a different day and age right now, man. There wasn't social media and stuff back in the 80s and 90s. Right. There's not even a lot of good footage of that stuff from the 80s and 90s. I swear. So in the new generation, in the new day and age, like our fan base is so young, they don't remember that stuff. They weren't old enough to go to Mid-South Coliseum. Yeah. Now we do have fans like Lewis and King Jamie and Lois, and there's some fans that do because they're my age or older, so they do remember. But the majority of our fan base now and our trainees are in their teens, 18, 19 to 25, 26. And unfortunately, Mid-South Coliseum hasn't had Monday Night Wrestling in that many years. Yeah. So I think I covered all of it, but
I appreciate that.
What's that?
I said that makes me feel really old. I appreciate it.
Me too, brother. Me too. I was in your music video, dude. Like, I'm in the background waving my hands like crazy. Me and Simon are watching old USWA footage, and we're like, "Hey, that's me. There's my dad." Like, we're finding me.
Video? Which video?
It's one of the music videos where it was like a montage of you and Jamie doing all this stuff.
Nice.
And you could
video. Was it the Slam video? Slam. I
don't know. I'll have to ask Simon because we saw my dad's white hair in the crowd. He has this white hair. Looks like Ric Flair almost. And so we noticed it's like, hey, there's me right there.
That's awesome.
That's an Easter egg.
But there's some sort of animosity about me doing Memphis Wrestling. And if you watch it, it's good. And there's going to be some stuff that you don't like, but if you look at the roster and the talent that we have, man, it's strong as hell. Like we have even the trainees that are coming up are very, very good. And Wolfie, whenever you come, you'll see. I mean, we've got a 6,000 square foot facility, has heat and air. We've got a VIP area. We have a lobby where you can buy your tickets. We've got a merchandise area. We have Slam and Snacks. We do training on Mondays and Wednesdays. We have seminars with guys like Dr. Tom Pritchard. Jonathan Gresham is a freaking coach there. Of course, Derek King. Robert Gibson was in town a couple of weeks ago doing a training session with the guys and gals. Yeah. And so you can sign up WrestleCenter901.com, but then also that's where we do our television shows. And so through all this, we realized that the TV stations didn't want to actually produce the wrestling. Like back in the day, you had WMC. And I talked to Jerry Jarrett all about this, man. It was super cool having him in. I know you mentioned that a minute ago. Yeah. But the TV stations are too sleek and expensive and have all this equipment and there's insurance liabilities and all this stuff. You cannot do a wrestling show in their studio anymore. Yeah. So I thought, wow, I guess we have to build our own. How do we do that? And then that's how it all kind of came about. And then me and a couple of my best buds and also King Cobra, big much love to King Cobra, we all came together and built the Wrestlecenter. Literally the wrestlers, Wolfie, we literally built the Wrestlecenter.
You built it. You built a building. You built the building.
The building was there. I could show you before and after pictures.
Yeah,
it was painted. The desk, the set, the walls, the bleacher areas, the staging, all that stuff was built by the wrestlers. It was built mostly by Simon, Psycho Simon.
Oh, Psycho.
That's a cool story, man. I dig that. Jimmy, I'm rolling over and I'm hot tagging you, man.
Man, I mean, I have a lot of questions, actually. And it's funny that we brought up the Heat so soon, but I like it. We went to the Heat early. I like it. But, so
Fiery comeback.
Yeah, fiery comeback. So the Memphis Mount, I want to hear from you, and maybe in two parts. The Memphis Mount Rushmore. Now, let's do it from the perspective of the city itself. Pick 4 or 5 guys that are people that have meant so much to the Memphis, the city, and then maybe we'll do the Mount Rushmore of wrestling too. But I would love to hear, like, I'm sure Elvis, the King, Jerry Lawler. I mean, who do you put on your Memphis Mount Rushmore?
Oh, wow. So not just wrestling.
Not just wrestling. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Elvis Presley's got to be on there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's really tough. I can't believe you asked me that.
I'm sorry.
I feel like
I'll take it back.
Yeah, I feel like I got to put the King on there. I mean, he's the most recognizable, like, as even people that don't know he wrestled know who the King is.
Right.
So you got 2 Kings there.
Yep.
And then it makes you feel like you got to put the 3rd King in there, which is BB King.
Right.
Because he was just so important for, diversity and. Gosh,
yeah, he was like from like Itta Bena, Mississippi, but again, Memphis, that's his city too, man. He was definitely, huge part of that.
And I guess if you asked me this any other days, it would be different answers. But I feel like the 4th one, and I hate to go with another musician, but it's just here, like Timberlake.
Yeah.
Because he's such a big superstar, that he's brought so much attention to the city. He's also part owner of the Memphis Grizzlies. So I would go with those 4. Today, I would go with those 4. And that's probably a very shallow answer because it's all like entertainment based.
But I mean, what does that tell you about Memphis, the city, though, man? I mean, dude.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I know you could probably pick community leaders and former mayors and, like town council members and stuff like that. But okay, so not near as fun. I mean, you got the Memphis. I mean, come on, you got Elvis, of course. BB King, I think, is great. Justin Timberlake, and of course, Jerry the King Lawler. So now, speaking of that,
they've all made music. Lawler's made music too.
Yeah, he has too. Exactly. Yeah,
collaborate.
Well, okay. Who is your Memphis wrestling Mount Rushmore?
Okay, now this one especially could change on any given day. I would have to go with Jerry Jarrett, Jerry Lawler, Sputnik Monroe, and man, that 4th one is always very tough. It's always like between a Jeff Jarrett and a Bill Dundee. Mm-hmm. But today I'll give it to Bill Dundee, and also Jimmy Valiant is on the cusp of that too, just because of
no Fargo.
That's another one there. I think maybe Jerry Jarrett and Sputnik Monroe took my Fargo spot.
Yeah.
And then keep in mind too, I'm only 42. I never saw Jackie Fargo ever wrestle. I was there live when Jackie Fargo was special referee and Lawler pinned Kurt Hennig to become world champion. I was there with my mom and my uncle, and I'll never forget it. Fargo counted 4. But I think Sputnik's got to be on the list because he helped desegregate the audience here in Memphis. Jerry Jarrett created it all. The King drew the money. And then I would say, Hanson Jimmy and Bill Dundee right there. Bill Dundee was Jerry Lawler's greatest rival, but then also Jimmy Valiant went on. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He was another big rival of the Kings. He drew so much in Memphis that they bought him a house in Fraser. Yeah. That's the story that I always heard. So that's pretty damn important.
And I think what was the deal, Jimmy? He only lived in it for like a month or some shit and moved out.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah, it wasn't long.
He wanted it painted all black. Wasn't that the deal?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh
they painted it all black for him, and then he moved in, and then he left like a month later. Who was telling us that story, Jimmy?
Was it Kevin? Telling
it might have been Kevin.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was Kevin. But it's funny with Jimmy. Really I think Memphis was his peak, honestly. I mean, I know he had a great run with the Valiant brothers in WWF, but like, honestly, if you think about it, his wrestling went, I mean, I hate to say this because I love Jimmy Valiant, but really he moved to Virginia and he went to the Carolinas, and I feel like he kind of got lazier in his work. And I hate to say this, he's a legend, but I feel like in Memphis, he was really at his best, man. I mean, the gimmick and the promos and the work in the ring, working Lawler, man, I just feel like that was his best time in wrestling ever, in my opinion.
We had Jimmy here for our Christmas episode. Boogie Claws came to town, and he was just as fired up, as energetic as ever. And he had so many nice things to say about the facility and about what we're doing, just basically putting the stamp of approval on it. Not that it's necessary or anything, but man, he just like really, filled me up with pride and some of the things he said. Love Jimmy Valiant to death. He did say, he's like, it's not theirs anymore. He's like, it's yours, Daddy.
That's awesome, man.
I said, Jimmy, please. I mean, I had goosebumps. I couldn't even believe he was saying some of the nice stuff that he said, but he really liked the facility. He loved the crowd. He loved what we did with him. And then he wants to come back. So,
man.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Support for Live and in Color with Wolfie D is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code WOLFIE at manscaped.com. If my math's correct, that's about 8 million balls.
Handsome Jimmy, Jerry Jarrett.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had Tommy Dreamer. Who's some of the other names that you've had down there?
We had Dave Brown. Lance Archer, Lance Hoyt. He changed the game for me. I think I told you this off air, but real quick, I booked Jerry Jarrett and Dave Brown. They were the first two VIPs. The place was full, but we didn't do so good on VIP. So I was thinking, man, what is going on? So I hit Archer up. Archer's fighting like Moxley or something on AEW at this time. He tells me what he wants. I say, all right, cool. We put it out there, start selling VIP tickets like crazy. I'm like, wait a second. And so that's when it really hit me that the audience has changed. It's a different audience for us. But we've had Booker T. We've had Jordan Grace as early as like 2 months ago. She's on top of the world at this point. I mean, the list goes on and on. Rhino, Tommy Dreamer,
Danhausen,
Sandman. We just had Danhausen. Danhausen sold every single seat in the house. He had a line from his merch table all the way through the lobby out into the street. And they didn't have to. They just stayed in line like that. Like the Wrestlecenter is plenty big, but it was funny how the line just kept going. We've had Camille. I know she's on AEW at this point. I mean, the list goes on and on of who we've had on. Shark Boy. Yeah. Shoot. We had Wolfie booked at one point. I'm going to get Wolfie out here. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's what we've heard.
We got that. We need that hubcap.
Yeah.
We'll get down there. We'll get it done.
I think King Cobra was the one was booking Wolfie early on, too. He was like, if I say this, you're going to come work for us.
Yeah.
Shout out to King Cobra too, man. Cobra's one of those old school guys that, probably much like me and you, Wolfie, like, we might not really like the way that the wrestling is done today, fully. There's some of it that we wish wasn't the way that it is, but that's just how the business has changed. And Cobra's, he looks at it. He's like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. But he understands that the business has changed,
Yeah. Yes, it definitely has. Some things can be corrected, I believe, but some things are too far gone. I also believe that, whether it's good or bad, it's just the way it is.
We just had Tony Atlas here. We just had Tugboat, who was Big Bubba in Memphis.
Yeah.
We've got AJ Francis coming up, and then Butterbean's going to be there for our episode 200 coming up this weekend.
Yeah, we interviewed Butterbean. That was a cool interview, man. That was like our first interview outside of true wrestling. You know what I mean? Even though he had a huge part in wrestling with that tough man deal up in WWE. He was like, man, they just fed those dudes to me. It wasn't a problem. Those were awesome.
Right.
Yeah. He's cool, though. You'll dig him.
Well, what's the plans for Memphis Wrestling going forward?
Well, the news dropped this morning. There's a new WWE ID program, which is called WWE Independent Development. So they've signed up some schools, which are owned by WWE superstars and legends. So I think it's Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Booker T, Rikishi, and then there's an Elite Pro Wrestling Training Center. So there's 5 ID schools. And then over the last week, since they announced this, they've started signing talent to these WWE ID contracts. And so they dropped the news this morning that all eyes on Memphis. Somebody has been ID'd from Memphis Wrestling. So this Sunday, which will be November 17th, not sure when this podcast drops, but somebody's getting identified. Yeah, so somebody will be under contract by the time this podcast drops.
That's awesome.
Now, the way they did it at Booker T's is they had Booker get in the ring and handed the contract over to Ice Williams. They've had online where William Regal walks into the locker room and calls out 2 guys and hands them their contracts. They've even posted a video of another at a training center where they handed a guy a contract at training. So I don't know exactly what the plans are just yet, but they've said somebody's been identified. So,
and are you shooting like you know who it is? You're not telling us, or you don't know who it is?
I can't say anything because anything can change at any moment. You know that.
Yeah.
Especially if I say something, it'll definitely change.
Hey, I know that, man. Me and Jimmy talked about this before, man. It's like in the wrestling business, until it happens, I don't believe it. I don't tell nobody. It's just always been like that. If I found out, just like I found out I was getting a contract with WWE, didn't tell nobody until it happened. So because somebody will go behind your back and fuck it up, or just something will happen. Yeah, this is like a jinx.
At this point, like my heart didn't even speed up, because I know you can tell me stuff all day long until it happens.
Right.
You could tell me I'm going to work WrestleMania until I've got my flight, my plane ticket, and I'm headed to the airport. I won't believe it.
Right.
It's just I've been told so many things in the wrestling business. If I had $1 for every time Memphis Wrestling was going to come back to TV, I'd have a whole lot of dollars.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of also what's kind of cool about this Memphis Wrestling is people thought that it wouldn't work. And when I mean people, there's a small bubble of people. Like the guys that you're talking about that don't like what we're doing, I think most of our fans don't even see it because it's a different bubble of people.
Right.
Like you mentioned, there's all the negativity and the old school stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all kind of are together. You know what I mean? They're all friends. So that's how they communicate. Our bubble is different to where we're, at training, they're cheering each other on. They're going to be excited. Everybody's going to pop on Sunday whenever they see who this is that's getting the contract. I feel like everybody's so supportive. So I feel like that this relationship, whatever it is and whatever it's going to be, hopefully we can continue to develop talent, train talent, maybe even had some outside talent come in, let us help try to develop them, get them some television experience, because we're doing television different than most others are. I mean, Wolfie, you watched all the Memphis Wrestling. They were at the desk all the time. Lance and Dave had a lot of TV time. Mm-hmm. It makes it feel like you're watching one show instead of a bunch of matches put on a show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're telling the story. So I feel like the way that we're doing the television is going to be good for any of these prospects that are either signed or trying to get signed. And then if you look at it from the talent,
are you writing TV? Who's writing TV?
Yes, me and Simon mostly write the TV.
I got you.
So yeah.
Okay.
And then also of course I could say, hey Wolfie, what do you think of this? And then you say something, and then I'm like, whoa, wait a second, and then I think of something else. So there's a lot of discussion that happens. With a whole lot
are you hiring Wolfie as a booker?
Consultant?
Well, we had here's a little inside thing is we were like, hey, what if we run over somebody in the parking lot? It's like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, well, if we do that, we got to book Doug and Tommy. Mm-hmm. And so of course I reach out to Doug and Tommy. We're trying to get them all locked up, and then it didn't happen. And the reason that I would like for stuff like that to happen is so we can tell today's fans what happened.
Right.
Because like my kid that's 4 or my kid that's 16, he wasn't there to see Eddie and Doug run over King in the parking lot. Right. So when we pay homage to it, I can reference it.
Yeah.
if they don't come, then I can't reference it. I'm not able to tell the history.
Yeah.
You know, like when you come and you bring the hubcap, I can tell the entire world what you dudes did with those hubcaps back in the day.
Right.
But if I don't have that opportunity, I can't really. It doesn't make any sense to reference it on a show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Totally.
I get it.
So that's why we love that stuff. But yeah, the stories. I mean, it's based off some of the old school stuff, and then I mean, we're very keen on storytelling and stuff. I mean, we do have our train wrecks and car crashes.
How long is the show?
It's 1 hour.
1 hour. And okay, so for people that are, you film on Sundays, correct?
We do. We film during the day on Sundays. So 12:30 is our VIP. When? It drops on. Okay, so on WMC Action News 5 Plus, we drop first on Friday night at 11 p.m. and then we air again on WMC on Saturday morning at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Then we air in Jackson, Tennessee on WBBJ every Saturday night at 10 o'clock right after the news.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a live premiere and we do a live chat every Saturday at noon. And that's where a lot of our audience comes from, is YouTube. We've got, I guess, 15 million views in the last couple of years just on YouTube alone. And so people come and chat and watch the new episode. So the easy answer there is you can go to youtube.com/@Memphis Wrestling and watch every episode absolutely free, in full, on demand.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to get at next. For somebody that's not in Memphis, how can they check out this new promotion? Well, it's not new anymore, but the new Memphis Wrestling.
Yeah, YouTube and Facebook, I think, are our two strongest social media platforms. You can literally watch the entire show through clips on Facebook. And then YouTube, all of it's there. You can even join our members only on YouTube. It's $3.99 a month. And we do like member only chats and never before seen pictures and stuff you're not supposed to see. We put that on our members only. Like this conversation right here would probably go on our members only. You know?
Yeah. Man, I'll tell you though, I just thought of this because I've never watched a whole episode, and don't take that in the wrong way because I don't watch hardly anything a whole episode. I'll occasionally watch a WWE pay-per-view in its entirety, but I don't watch Raw. I don't want so I have not watched a full episode, but I see clips. And the clip that popped me the most, man, was that you had the guy on there that looked like the Tiger King. I thought it was the real dude, man.
I know, right?
It worked the shit out of me. I mean, I was totally marked out for that. I was like, they got this motherfucker on it. But I wasn't even thinking the fucking dude was in jail. But yeah, that was pretty good, man.
That was like an early on kind of almost publicity stunt where we had to call him Tiger Joe. And so they were like, wait a minute, I thought Tiger King was in jail. And it's like, nope, he'll be there Sunday. And I mean, we never called him by his name or whatever. What is it, Tiger King?
Yeah.
We never called him that. So, I mean, we didn't, but it made people think, like, is he really? Like, is that really the guy?
It looks like him.
Yeah, he looks identical to him. He sounds like him. So Derek King pile drove him, and that made the pile driver be banned in Memphis. So we haven't done a pile driver since then. And there's a story behind that. Yeah, we're going to save that for something big. So no pile drivers because Derek pile drove Tiger King. And then Rhino came back to help Tiger King. I don't know, whatever the story was. But yeah, that still gets a whole lot of views on social media, even to this day. Like if you come across it on social media, usually somebody's going to comment on it. Like, I thought this dude was in jail. And I have people all the time, and I know people don't watch full episodes of very much stuff. I don't either. Who has time? Right. But the point is if it's in your news feed and you see it and you stop and maybe you interact with it or maybe you watch 10 or 15 seconds of it, you're watching the show. You see it. That's what it's all about, is getting it out there.
Yeah.
That's why we post all that stuff. So if you do miss it, you see it.
Smart thinking. You know, I got a question. You know, Wolfie and I, now Wolfie hasn't, you know, most of his time, especially for a lot of our listeners, they remember him with hair, and he's had hair, and now he's had his head shaved now for a long time. And myself, I'm the same way. I've shaved my head probably, since I was 17. Remember in the baseball dugout, we just decided to get rid of the remaining remnants of my hair and took it away. But bro, you have some epic hair, man. So and for follically challenged gentlemen such as Wolfie and myself, and sorry to throw you in this bucket, Wolfie, we look at hair like yours and almost see like a guy who's bragging a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
you already hate it, right?
Yeah.
That's why I have so much heat with the boys. They hate it before they even meet me.
Dude, the hair is epic. So, okay, first off, how long does it take to get that stuff going, bro? Because it's probably got it trained, right?
It's trained. So, okay, the hair stories. Okay, my favorite hair story is I'm backstage at WWE and Tommy Dreamer says, "Hey, your hair's pretty cool." And I'm like, "Thanks. I thought he was ribbing me." And he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, nobody else has hair like that. It was like a faux hawk type of thing. It was similar to what it is now, but didn't look quite like a helmet, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So later that day, John Laurinaitis asked me, "What does Dustin Starr have that nobody else has?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got heart. I got desire." He's like, "Come on, everybody's got that. What do you have that John Cena and Randy Orton don't have?" And I said, "Well, I got a pretty cool hairdo." And he laughed, and that got me a tryout at the ring the next day in front of Arn Anderson and all these dudes, like all my favorite wrestlers in the world. And so it got me an opportunity. And so that's the hair story there. But a stylist named Nick in Memphis, he, for some reason, it was almost like Elvis-like, the way that he did it. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to have to change this when I get home. And I stopped at the store and I had two people mention my hair. It was almost like an underhanded compliment, like, "Hey man, nice hair." And so I was like, wait. And so when I got home, my wife said something about it. But again, it wasn't like, "Whoa, that looks great." It was almost like, nice hair. And so I thought, well, fuck, I got to keep it now.
Yeah,
so I kept it. It was almost accident.
That's awesome, though. But
most people think it's to Elvis is what they feel like, I think.
So if anybody wants to see a good match, we were actually thinking about doing a watch along, but these watch alongs with this show are just kind of hard with it just being audio and stuff, getting people to actually watch along. But if anybody wants to watch a really good match, go on YouTube, Dustin Starr versus Wolfie D. It was for Kevin's promotion. What year was that, you think? 2017, 18?
Hey, hold on. I'm right here at my computer. I might be able to just pull it up.
It was in 2014.
14.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You weren't wrestling a whole lot at that point.
No, because I had tore my arm up. I had tore my tricep. Had to have surgery on that, and that was one of my first matches back. You used to see I got that big brace on my arm.
But yeah.
So it's a really good match there.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. When Kevin was running the Minglewood Hall shows there for a minute, I think he did 4 or 5 maybe. Mm-hmm. I was deemed as like his top star there, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Me and Maria, we always had really good spots with King or Scott Steiner. I know he booked me to beat Hurricane Helms, and then he had me beat you. And so some of these were like, I think even you were like, "Wait, what do you want for the finish?" It was kind of like, and me, I'm kind of shocked. I don't know that we had problems with it, but we're just kind of surprised. Like, and so that's when I kind of felt like that Kevin and that wrestling organization was kind of pushing me. It's really hard. You know what I'm saying, though, Wolfie? They're like pushing you as like a top dude,
right?
And other people kind of had a problem with that. Like, I don't know that Jerry Lawler thought that I had earned that or whatever. I have no idea the ins and outs of it. You'd have to ask Kevin. But I felt like that was the first time that they were really trying to push me. And then when they brought you in specifically to work me and for me to go over, I was like, whoa, I didn't expect this at all. Yeah. And so at that point, I started doing a little bit more TV and stuff as well. And Kevin would book me on like Live at 9 or something like that. So that was actually a really fun time in wrestling. And unfortunately, it didn't last that long. And I think maybe that's why Kevin kind of has an issue with what we're doing is because he tried it. Yeah. Could you see that? Because you've known Kevin a long time.
I can absolutely see it.
So maybe that's kind of part of it too.
He's been on here a bunch recently, and I loved working on Kevin's shows. I thought he did good shows. I liked the way that he goes kind of like the production part of it. The lights and the smoke and I love all that shit. If you're gonna do a show, do it that way, but I think, I guess expenditure wise, he probably might have got in over his head. I don't know that for sure.
Well,
hey.
it's a struggle with any local business, especially a wrestling. When we launched the Wrestlecenter, I was asking myself, is there enough wrestling to have a facility 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And we did all the work for Young Rock when they were in town with NBC. We set up every ring. I even went and bought a trailer and another ring just to accommodate what we were doing for Young Rock and NBC. All our wrestlers were on the show and all that. So that happened for us. And then when that was over, it's like, okay, is there still enough wrestling going on? And then, of course, something else happens. And so we've been very fortunate that there's a lot of stuff going on that we could take part in, whether it's Impact being here or AEW coming. We fortunately able to send extra guys to WWE and stuff. So anytime something's going on around Memphis, I'm not, we talked about the attitude earlier, but I'm not going, oh, dang, WWE's coming to town. I'm thinking, yes, WWE's coming to town. How many opportunities? How many people are going to get payoffs because of this? Yeah. Man, I wonder if we could get tickets so we can be there. I wonder if they need marketing and advertising for the show, because FedEx Forum, we do business with them. So I look at it differently. Like, these are opportunities for not only our business, but opportunities for the talent. And I feel like when I was coming up, it wasn't necessarily like that. Like, how many times do you remember guys getting extra opportunities, when it was after USWA, like Power Pro? I know they had the contract, but like Corey, I don't feel like we didn't even know what a WWE extra was at that time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk through, and I know we're running low on time here. I do want to bring up the Grizzly thing again, because I've seen the clips where you guys have the ring like way up in the, that looks terrifying, and I would not want to do that.
Sign a waiver, brother. There's a rule. There's a rule. You can't hit the. Me too. Me too. Oh, I'm terrified of it. But you don't hit the rope on that side. Actually, they don't want you to hit the ropes at all, to be perfectly honest with you. There's a stage up there. I think it might be 16 by 16, and the ring was custom made for 14 by 14, so it would fit on that stage. And for many years now, we book a wrestling night. This 2025, it'll be March the 1st. And so they've had everybody from Ric Flair to The King we had Jeff Jarrett versus Jerry Lawler at a halftime match at FedEx Forum, and Super Grizz and D'Angelo Williams came and made the save. Scott Hall, X-Pac, Scott Steiner. Geez, man, the list goes on and on. They've had so many people there, but it's a blast to do. Usually we have Memphis wrestling going on in the front as you're walking into FedEx Forum, and then you have pre.
So if you fell out of that ring, how far down would you go?
Oh, man, 20 or 30 feet maybe?
Oh, my God. Yeah,
maybe, yeah.
I'm terrified. I'm just, like I say, I've seen the clips of it on probably Facebook or something, man. I'm like, fuck that, man. That looks it's terrifying.
Bully Ray was there last. I think they put somebody through a table. Him and Tommy Dreamer put somebody through a table last time. But I helped them with that. So the Grizzlies know kind of a gist of what they want to do. They even have a good idea of what local wrestlers they like on my crew. So it's really cool because there's a really good relationship there where we know each other's brands and products and share information, and it's just a blast to be able to help out at those events, but especially have like your ring and all that kind of stuff. And I get to host them, so that's the cool part about emceeing the Grizzlies game. Is now I'm playing Lance and Dave at the Grizzlies game, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, that is.
And most of the time I'm doing it side by side with Dave, because Dave's the commissioner there.
Okay.
But we do it at least once a year, and it's Grind City Wrestling. And then, of course, we have a podcast called Grind City Wrestling, and we record that at FedEx Forum in their studio.
That is awesome. Very cool.
Jimmy, you got any final question?
Well, I'm just, I just want to thank you first off, man, because, you do get heat, but I mean, hey, man, if you're not getting heat, you're wanting to get cheered, right? And so if you're not getting cheered, you might as well be getting heat, right? So, no, man, I think it's cool what you're doing. Maybe sometime you need a live and in color with Wolfie D podcast at your event. Maybe sometime.
Let's do that, man.
Yes, anytime, man. Let us know.
Well, I think what would be cool there is if booking Wolfie and booking somebody that he wants to be on the podcast.
There you go.
You guys together live, put it on video so we can put it on YouTube. I'm down with that.
All right, man.
That'd be cool.
Let's talk. Yeah.
But yeah, man, appreciate you coming on, man. And I would like to share with the listeners when I first told you, hey, man, do you want to come on the show? You're like, you're going to bury me. Like, no, dude, I'm not going to bury you.
I said, don't beat me up. Don't beat me up, Wolfie.
No, man. I think, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think most of that stuff, like I say, is like the boys behind the scenes. It's not something, you know, if I joke about it, if I saw somebody with a locally hated shirt on the other day and I was like, hey, I like that shirt. And they thought it was ridiculous that I liked it because they have no idea. You know, anytime I do a live or a podcast or anything like that, nobody asks about it because they don't see it. I think that's just some of the old school guys feel a certain way. And one day, hey, look, I'm still trying to book every one of you guys. So,
Right.
You heard it here. I'm trying to book all of you guys. All right.
Even the ones you're not. Yeah, the ones that are mad right now, they want to be.
I will go pick Jerry Lawler up right now and take him to the Wrestlecenter. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
So
that's hilarious. All right, dude, man. Again, thank you for coming on. I'm glad we got to have this discussion, and I hope the listeners go and check out the Memphis Wrestling on YouTube. You know, if you're not down in Memphis, I know a lot of our listeners do listen from Memphis, but they're all over the country and in some other countries. But yeah, check it out, Memphis Wrestling on YouTube. Thank you, Dustin, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Tell your wife hello, and peace out, brother.
All right, I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for the platform. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We'll be right back with Ask Wolfie D Anything.
DJ, hit the music.
All right, we are back with Ask Wolfie D Anything, and once again, man, like we always do, Dustin Starr. That was interesting, man. Very, very interesting story. I think it was a good story, man. I think I see it from a different perspective now.
For sure, man. Kudos to him, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the point that I liked that he said that I really want to focus on is if Jerry Lawler was running a show, we'd all be working for him right now, you know?
Yeah.
But he's not. So it is what it is. But we love you, Kevin. Don't hate us too much. But anyway, maybe we'll have Kevin and Dustin one day. Is that possible?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Well, we have Tommy and Doug or Kevin and Dustin first.
Oh, man, that's hard.
Anyway, Ask Wolfie. How about that? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. First question is from Cause Effect on Instagram. And this is kind of interesting being the fight that just happened. And it says, who is the most overrated wrestler of all time in your opinion?
Well, depends on how you're looking at it, but let me think. Because there's two parts of me here. There's the wrestling person in me, and then there's knowing the business. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
You'd almost say Kevin Nash, but the motherfucker made a shit ton of money, you know? But I just never got it with him. You know what I'm saying? As far as why.
Yeah.
Because he did fail a bunch before he ever succeeded. You know, none of his gimmicks worked and all that kind of shit. But he was persistent. And I mean, I can't knock somebody really that was that over and made that much money and continues to make money. So that's a hard question to really say, man. I mean, there's golly, man, overrated in what category? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would go with that just to have an answer. And, you know, I'm trying to think of somebody else that I just thought was terrible.
I mean, in seeing it from the past and the future, you know, seeing it from the current time to the past, I mean, one might say the Ultimate Warrior could be up there. But again, dude, we popped for him. And
sold tickets.
He sold a ton of tickets, and he, you know, honestly was the most, I would say, over, past Hulk Hogan there for a good amount of time. So, and then some people might say John Cena because he was crammed down your throat, but honestly, he was the dude carrying the ball at the time. So it's hard to say him because he made a ton of money too,
Yeah, I know. Because I think when they overrated, maybe that's what they're asking me is who was not really a good wrestler but made a lot of money. So, but
who didn't deserve the spot?
Those things contradict themselves to me, man. After being in the business this long, I know that's just, you can't really say that unless you just say, okay, who made a lot of money that was a shitty wrestler?
Right.
So that would be a better way to put it if that's what they're asking me. But I hope I answered that all right. It's hard.
No, I think Kevin Nash is a very good point. That's a good one. So, okay, this next one is from Joey Jenkins on Facebook. This was a little Halloween related, but honestly, it's Halloween all year long around here. So he asked this one. He says, have you ever worked in a haunted building?
Not that I am aware of. The Evansville Coliseum had that, like a jail cell. They had jail cells underneath there. There's a door that was always locked, but I've actually been in there once. And you go down these steps. It's real creepy, and there's, the actual old school cells in there and shit. And it's kind of creepy. So I think, there'd be potential for something there, but other than that, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. You never know. The fairgrounds might be haunted, right? With, George Goulas yelling, well, no, he's not passed on, so never mind. But Daddy said sell or something.
Destroyed the building.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe never mind. Okay, yeah, well, that's a good answer. I think no is the right answer if that's the real answer. So there we go.
I believe it is.
All right. Well, Alex Ratliff from Facebook asked this one, and this one, I think this one's interesting because I've heard you talking some a little bit lately, but it's a simple question, Wolfie D. Will you ever wrestle again?
I doubt it very seriously. I doubt it very, very seriously, man. I might even be looking at a shoulder operation coming up real soon. I got to go get an MRI tomorrow. So we shall see. We shall see. I don't want to have a fucking operation. I'm tired of being cut on. But yeah, I messed it up in doing all this stuff at the gym, man. I've kind of tweaked an old injury, and it's really bothered me. So
yeah.
So on the plus side, with all the weight and stuff I was talking about, I've lost, and the blood works good and all that. But now I've tweaked an old shoulder injury that's irritating the crap out of me. So.
Well, that's never good, and I'm sorry to hear that.
Again, to the conversation that started this show, age matters.
Age definitely matters, and it adds up. And unfortunately, it's something we can't fight, man. But golly, every day I feel like that too, though. I know. It's like, man.
That's why, man, like dudes like Mike Jackson and these people that are still out there doing it at a, pretty high level, still taking care of themselves. And man, my bum card expired, I believe. So, yeah.
Yeah. You're out of bumps. I get it. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. And being able to understand that, I think is a smart thing. And I think that's a good thing. So, as long as you understand it and you're not out there getting hurt, that's the important part. So, but yeah, Mike Jackson, how does he do it? We don't know. Right. But yeah, anyway, well, that's all I got, brother. Thank you for answering questions.
Great episode. And next week, we'll go ahead and tell you, because we've already put this one in the bag. We got the grappler Lynn Denton on next week. So look forward to doing that. And, that. And we'll see you next week.
And now a word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling!
every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Well, stop by Captain's Corner, where you can get autographed photos, cards, magazines, and figures from all of your favorite wrestling superstars of the past, present, and future. You'll also be able to participate in live signings in the weeks and months to come. Make sure to stop by Captain's Corner on Facebook and give us a holler. Remember, cheers to the working man.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices, and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at Warren Wolf 13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap
for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still livin' in color. Bum rush your mother, utilize a hubcap. I'm like any other. Back in the day, I was NOD, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip hopping. Been doing it like this since '92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? but I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. Huh. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome. We got a cap for your dome. We got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.